For more than 20 years, a single photograph from my father's private album has raised questions. Not, is this Elizabeth Short, but a narrower and more responsible question. Can the woman in this photograph reasonably be excluded as Elizabeth Short? When I first published the image in Black Dahlia Avenger back in 2003, reactions tended toward extremes. Many critics dismissed it immediately, sometimes only after a glance. Rarely was there a serious attempt to analyze it. Over the years, in an effort to approach the question scientifically, I provided the album photograph to experts in facial biometrics. In 2013, the image was analyzed by Dr. Robert Frischholz of BioID in Germany. He was one of the early leaders in computer-assisted facial comparison. Using Elizabeth Short's Santa Barbara booking photo and the John Marshall High School images as reference points, his findings placed the album photograph in the mid-90% similarity range. That didn't prove identity, and it wasn't presented that way. Instead, it raised the threshold of exclusion. Recently, something interesting happened. Independent readers using modern AI-assisted facial comparison tools available today ran their own comparisons. One reader compared the album photograph with a booking photo and reported an 85 to 90% similarity based solely on facial structure. 2 days later, the comparison was repeated using the John Marshall High School image. Again, this result, 98 to 99% facial similarity. Again, not proof, but the consistency across decades and methods is difficult to ignore. For context, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the agency that tests facial recognition algorithms, treats matches above 95% as high confidence results that warrant closer expert review. In forensic practice, these scores don't close a case, but they don't get dismissed either. I'm not asking anyone to accept the album photograph as Elizabeth Short. What I'm asking is whether we can responsibly exclude it given the current evidence. When independent tools across time and technology continue returning similar scores at the upper limits of reliability, reflective dismissal becomes less a scientific conclusion and more a personal reaction. The full article, including methodology, context, and discussion of exclusion, is now available on my blog at stevehodel.com/blog. I've relied on science, not speculation. Interpretation appropriately remains with the reader. Thank you. In the early days of my investigation, I mistakenly included a second album photograph as a possible image of Elizabeth Short. To avoid any confusion, that second photograph was later identified in 2006 when I located and personally interviewed the woman in the image. Her name was Mariah Marco, an actress, friend of my father. Following that identification, I publicly eliminated her photograph on national television, on CNN Anderson Cooper 360, nearly 20 years ago. That clarification is long settled. The photograph examined in this presentation is not the Marco image.